Well, thank you everyone for choosing to be fully present for this 44-minute activation into honoring yourself and your light. And the first thing that wants to be acknowledged is that you're honoring yourself by being present, by choosing to make time for you and to receive the support of the angelic realm of the Council of Light to elevate you into the resonance of really your divine nature, because honoring the self is a flavor of that. Honoring the self is an aspect of divinity that we've been kind of entrained to believe isn't virtuous. You know, there's so many teachings out there about sacrifice is love, and it's actually not. It couldn't be further from the truth. So we would, as we speak about honoring the self, we would invite you to take a deep breath and be willing to receive the source, pure, perfect definition of what that even means. Because through our conditioning as humans, you know, we kind of take on these distorted versions of honoring the self because we're taught that's how to honor the self, when maybe that really isn't fully in integrity with this pure, perfect honoring of self, which includes the recognition of who you really are. So when we speak of honoring the self, we speak of honoring you in your divine perfection, in your wholeness that you truly be. And by recognizing that's who you are, that pure, perfect being of light that is irreplaceable, that is a unique aspect of the one life that will never be duplicated, you are precious beyond words. Your value is infinite. There's no question of your worth. So from this place, we would invite you to begin breathing that in the recognition and the lens through which we see you. Because from that place of seeing yourself truly, the honoring of self becomes, and of course I would honor this aspect of life that is irreplaceable, that I've actually been put in charge of honoring, because I'm the only one that can choose for me. So just take a deep breath into that. What if the external circumstances and world and others can only honor you in proportion to how much you're actually honoring yourself? And it's almost as if when you give yourself the honoring and the love and the recognition, you give everything else permission to do the same. So we're watching some energy move with that. So just take some deep breaths as you're willing. This is all free will, so you can choose to receive what's being offered here for you or not, and it's perfect. You can choose to wait and discern, do I really want to go here or not? It's a free will zone, and it's perfect, because where you are is actually perfect. Where you are is in this beautiful, perfect stage of your evolution and consciousness that brought you to this moment to be able to even receive this option of elevation. And it's still an option, even though you're present here, right? Even though your beautiful faces are fully present, your beautiful presences are fully tuned in, you're still in choice. So we'd like to bring in some support for you to really step into the power and potency of that, the recognition of that power, the recognition of you either say yes or no, and no one else can for you. Nothing is being done to you here. It is being offered to be received or left on the table. And it's perfect either way. Do you get that? Because you are in charge of your journey on a higher plane. And if this isn't the time for you to pick this up, you'll create an opportunity somewhere down the line to visit it again and choose again. It's beautiful. It's so perfect. And the divine intelligence that is infused in your path is also perfect. So are you willing to step into this recognition that even if we've been in abuse of self our whole life, we actually have the power to choose differently now moving forward? Because maybe we didn't realize we were abusing the self. Maybe we didn't realize we weren't being loving. Maybe we thought we were being loving and virtuous by putting ourselves last, or by sacrificing, or by attempting a codependent configuration where we were trying to do everything for everybody else and be responsible for them being honored, but totally forgetting about us. And do you see how that's not oneness? Can you feel into it's everybody else and I'm out here, I'm outside of the circle, I'm not including myself in the oneness. So it's separation. Do you see that? And that's how we've been trained as beings, that it's a good person if you sacrifice. You know, we look up to that. That gets a badge. That gets a badge of honor. That gets recognition as heroic or amazing. And so there's nothing wrong with that. It's simply now a choice of consciousness to evolve into the way of being where you actually include yourself, and sacrifice can actually be evolved beyond, because we recognize that it actually isn't honoring. We've actually stepped into a distortion and we're attempting to function from separation and get oneness, but that doesn't work, which is why we're at this pinnacle moment of, oh, let's try something else, right? It's like, I get it. I have to include me in what gets to be honored. So can we bring in some frequency and remembering, and it really is coming through your higher self, to remind you what it feels like to be in that frequency of honoring in your daily life, to what that even is. And can we remind you what it feels like, how to, and that it's safe to live there, to actually choose that way of being on a daily basis. And we're so cute because what stepping forward is, well, but I don't want to not honor others. And so the record that's playing, the program that's running here is that if I put myself in an honoring place, then I put everybody else last. So that's the separation-based perspective, which actually appears to be true in separation, but it's actually not true with a capital T. When we're functioning from oneness and we honor this aspect of life that is us, we're actually honoring all life. Nobody's left out. So even if you don't understand that yet intellectually, are you willing to receive that remembering? How we're meant to function, how we're actually wired to function as a divine being of light, with access to infinite resources, with access to the pure, perfect love and light of our being. And just take a deep breath. So what if it was actually time for you to step into the remembering and the acknowledgement that you could actually honor yourself as this aspect of the divine that's you, that's a part of the whole, that you're in charge of, and it ripples into honoring everybody else because we're not separate. And take a deep breath. The other beautiful, 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 amazing, helpful side effect is, as you are demonstrating the honoring of you, because you are this amazing, unique aspect of the divine that is miraculous and irreplaceable, you demonstrate that for others. They begin to remember what that is. They begin to attune to that frequency and that remembering. You become the tuning fork, so to speak, for others to begin to choose it for themselves. And I often see this metaphor, and I'm being shown it, this idea of birds in flight. When birds are flying, they all are in this beautiful alignment, and they know when to turn together and how to flow, and they're spaced perfectly, and everything is flowing very synchronistically. That's how we're meant to function as beings, even as a humanity. That's how we're meant to function. But because we don't stay in our own lanes and honor this aspect of life that is us, and we try to worry about the other bird and figure out what it's going to do, we start bumping into each other. If we would just stay tuned in to what we're being called into, to what feels honoring for us, to following the light for us, it would manifest as everybody falling into alignment in this pure, perfect, synchronistic flow. So can we remind you that that's actually how life wants to function through you, how it wishes to function through you. And because we've agreed to certain ways of being and certain thinking and certain paradigms and ideas, we just have gotten in the way of that, so to speak. We haven't been allowing it to flow very naturally and fluidly. And this idea that sacrifice is virtuous is actually one of the thorns in the side that we're being invited to retire. So are you willing to receive the remembering and the knowing of all the lessons you were meant to learn through those experiences of sacrifice and suffering, and putting yourself last, or not including yourself in a decision, including what's best for everybody else, and you don't matter? And do you get that? When you don't matter, you just don't matter, right? This isn't going to show up to value you because you're not valuing you. So are you willing to receive all the lessons you're meant to learn and activate the mastery of those lessons in your field at the level of your higher self? So it's really just you choosing, and then the higher self will do the work in collaboration with the Council of Light. And just take a deep breath. So they're saying, where is it that you are trying to kind of take the reins and drive the ship or the horse from a place of have to, or obligation, or control? Really, it's a control energy. So they want you just to notice, because that isn't the birds in flight. That's actually the small self trying to be the one in charge. And the small self literally only sees through separation. It can't conceive of oneness. So just notice, because it's about awareness. It's not about judgment. It's like, oh, okay, I'm kind of contorted around this, or trying to steer this in a certain way, or make this person change, or control the situation, or whatever that is, because that will automatically take you out of the flow and the alignment with honoring the self. Because honoring the self lives in that flow. We can't have both. We can't have honoring the self and contortion and control at the same time. So the mind's not going to understand that, and that's okay. The intellect thinks that if it controls the show, it's going to be happy and it's going to be honored. And that's actually not true. Because whenever we're in a contortion of control or manipulation, or that type of trying to wield power, we're actually not aligned in who we really are. Because if we're aligned in who we really are as an infinite being, already having access to infinite, and take a deep breath into that, I already am, I already have, there's nothing to control. That lives in a whole nother world. So if we attempt to control or function from the systems of control, or ourselves or anyone else, or our life, we actually step out of that, what we'll call sovereignty, but that place of alignment where honoring the self is our natural state, where divine flow is the natural alignment and therefore experience. So can we show you that, even if you don't fully understand it with the intellect? Because the linear mind has a hard time with these languagings and talking about oneness, because the linear mind and the intellect was actually created to function in separation. So it really only will understand separation. So what if it's actually okay if you don't understand it fully, but you can feel the truth in it? You can feel, yes, I know that's who I am. I know I'm already free. I know I'm already an extension of an infinite source. Will you let that be enough? Will you allow yourself to not have to understand how the reflection's actually going to occur, that you actually, quote unquote, get what you want, get what you're choosing your life to be? That's the side effect, right? It will happen when you're in alignment with who you are. That's the law. It will reflect as harmony and joy and flow and abundance and everything yummy, because that's who you are. And take a deep breath. So from this awareness, and really all we have to get here is that control isn't helpful. It takes us out of who we are. Are you willing to allow your higher self to support you in beginning to evolve those patterns of control as a way of being, as a way of getting what we want, so to speak? And can we shift that into, what if we actually just focused our control energy on our alignment, staying in alignment, not trying to do anything out here or make anything happen out here, but I'm going to focus my, what I'll call control energy or choice energy in, I'm choosing to remain in alignment, and I'm going to redirect that energy of control on myself to keep myself in alignment, not from an abusive place, but just from, it's like it helps us notice more. If our energy isn't split, where it's going mostly out here and very little awareness on where we're aligned, we're going to not be aware when as easily when we step out of the alignment. If we pull all of our control energy and hold it on ourselves, using it for keeping ourselves in our own lane, in our alignment of honoring self and of knowing who we are, then when we get off that, we notice right away, because all of our energy is focused there. So with your permission, we're going to support you in redirecting that energy at the level of your higher self off of everyone and everything you've been trying to control externally, bringing all of that back to you and all your reference points for what's helpful to control on your beam of light, meaning I'm going to keep focused in my beam of light. I'm going to stay focused on who I really am. I'm going to be focused on my alignment. So we want to just debunk a myth here, which is that if you're in alignment, you're never going to be sad, or you're never going to witness sadness. And you may witness sadness, you may witness grief, you may witness anger, but none of that is you. So you being in alignment with you does not mean you're never going to have things waft through your awareness that you would probably not choose from the buffet line of oneness. But as it wafts through, you stay unattached to it, you feel it, you allow it to express, and it will waft through, just like the clouds in the sky. It's simply something somewhere that is coming back into the circle of love. And if you allow it, it will realign itself to the higher frequency. And while it's doing that, we will experience the sensations of it. So what you wish to notice when we talk about staying in your own lane and staying in alignment with who you are is, how are you perceiving yourself? Are you perceiving yourself as the infinite being that you truly be, in alignment with that truth, in honoring of that truth? Or are you perceiving yourself as the one who is disempowered and sad? That really isn't you. That's just the experience that is wafting through your awareness. So can we show you the difference, and can we show you how to stay anchored in who you really are, even in the midst of the experience of something else? Are you willing to claim that much power back with regard to the awareness and the focus that you have the ability to direct? You're the one who sees the thoughts. You're not the thoughts. You are the one who sees and feels the emotions. You are not the emotions. And it's only because we've identified with them in the past that we allow them to appear to be us, and then try to get rid of them or think there's something wrong with them or something's wrong with us. We go into a story of judgment. So can we show you how to include that all in infinite without making any of it more or less significant? So in other words, any experience you have is just an experience. Any thought you have is just a thought. The beauty of this is when you release all the charge around positive, negative, having to categorize, having to judge something as right or wrong, you actually naturally align with your true state because you're outside of the conversations of right and wrong. And you're in this beautiful, pure awareness and non-judgment energy that you truly be, that embraces and loves everything because it knows what's actually real and it knows what's actually true. This part of you that we're now inviting to step forward, that knows who you are in your sovereignty, that knows who all beings are in their sovereignty, and knows there's nothing that needs fixed or changed. And take a deep breath. So do you see how that energy is completely not about control? It's about knowing the truth. And control really morphs then into focus, directing your focus and your perception. And take a deep breath. So what if a piece of you honoring you, and really this is the shortcut, this probably isn't anything like what you thought it was going to be like. The shortcut to you honoring you is to you remembering who you really are. Because when you remember who you really are, when you pull all your energy into that alignment through your intention, because you're choosing it, because you have the authority over your field and over your energy, the honoring of self is inevitable. And that step of I'm choosing to pull all my energy into alignment with the truth of who I am and to see myself as I truly am is honoring yourself. You being in a distorted experience of I'm powerless, or I'm a victim, or I don't have, or I lack, is actually not honoring the self, the true self. We're giving power to a version of us that isn't really who we are, which is okay. But in this phase of our journey, it's really about staying in that consciousness to be consciously aware of when we forget. So we can notice and bring ourselves back to anchor in our reference points into who we really are instead. And none of it's right or wrong. It's all learning. It's like this child learning to walk that falls down, and then it gets up and it walks some more and it falls down. It's all perfect. And so it's exercising this muscle of being willing to make a priority the honoring of self in such a way, I'm going to honor myself by remembering who I am. Because when I remember who I am, I'm going to honor myself. There's no question. Because No one else can honor me if I don't honor me. And I'm an aspect of the divine. I deserve to be honored. That's part of what I was designed to be and to experience. And so does all life. So it's not that we're excluding everybody else, but they're in their own journey, in their own lessons, in their own phase of evolution. That isn't our responsibility. We can only be responsible for our alignment, our perception, our choices. And so this is a cultivated thing where we remember and remember and remember to bring ourselves back to the alignment of truth. And there are many ways we can do that. I used to put sticky notes all over my house. I used to schedule reminders in my phone, like little tasks or whatever. And the words that I use, you can use whatever words you want. These were the words that were given to me very early in my spiritual awakening, was remember to remember. So it was really simple, remember to remember. And that when those words came up on my phone, or I saw the sticky note, and I would move the sticky notes around the house periodically so that I didn't, look past them and not see them anymore. I'd put one in, the toaster oven, or, whatever on the toaster oven, just move them around, put them in the refrigerator, places you're going to be looking. And then as soon as you do, you just take a deep breath. As soon as you see it, you take a deep breath and you choose consciously to bring all your energy back to your beam of light. And we're just going to do an exercise there, inviting. So just take a deep breath. Invite your higher self and your body's higher self to gather up all your light nuggets, all of your power nuggets, all of your control nuggets, all of your light. We're just going to call it that for now. All of your light off of everyone and everything in all time frames and dimensions, known and unknown. Back to you, recalibrating it for you, and weaving it back in to your column of light. I am this beautiful, miraculous beam of light emanating directly from source. I am perfect, I am whole, and I have everything required to support me on my journey. As we invite the activation of the frequencies of support, of safety, and of knowing who you are in truth, of valuing the self, of self-love, of honoring the self, and oneness-based perception. Take a deep breath. And are you willing to release and uncreate any mechanisms, any codependent ways of being that would have you direct your light horizontally again so that you can more easily maintain the vertical alignment? As we invite the upgrade of any of those mechanisms now. And in some cases, the evolution into the next phase. Would you also be willing to receive any light codes that are available to you at this time from your higher self and your council of light to support you in fully moving into the next level of loving yourself, the next level of honoring yourself in tangible, practical ways? This is where we begin to have these inspired ideas or little nudges or, oh, I remember I used to love to do that. I'm going to try doing that again, or I'm going to go to yoga today. Whatever it is, this is where we invite this. It's really you. It's not a consciousness separate from you. It's coming from your higher self. It's coming from your multidimensional self. You could think of it as your future self that's already moved into the honoring of self as a way of being. Okay, perfect. Take a deep breath. And as this is moving in, we're also going to invite the golden, beautiful light and the pink light straight from source to come in to fill any perceived voids. So it's really self-love, divine love, and the golden light of enlightenment, Christ consciousness. And take a deep breath. So as this is finding its way where it needs to be, I want to talk a little bit about a couple of practical examples of how we can get caught up in not honoring the self, because it makes it a little more clear. And because we did the energy work ahead of time, you'll be able to hear this a little better as well. So I was outside a couple days ago walking my dog, and I came up to a neighbor walking their dog, and she is a teacher. She teaches 8th grade, and she looked very, very tired. And she's like, I'm finally off for the summer. I'm so grateful. And this is the first day I've slept in forever. And I think I'm going to walk my dog and go back to bed. And I said, good for you. Honor yourself. But what I was sensing is, it's like she had gone 9 months not honoring herself, putting everybody else first. And she was completely depleted. They really want you to look at this from, it's like, it's an obvious, like, oh, well, that's not helpful, right? And that's not helpful for anybody. And that's not love. So anywhere you have done that, or you're still doing it because you think it's what I have to do, or you think it's the role, they're showing me like a hat we put on, the role we have to play as a mother, or as a wife, or as a husband, or as a son, or as a caretaker, or as a coworker, or a boss, or whatever. Are you, or a volunteer, they're saying, are you willing to move into the recognition that anytime there is a sacrifice, you're actually not functioning in love? Because they're different frequencies, different worlds. They can't coexist. Now, the separation-based version of love can be present in sacrifice, but the separation-based version of love isn't all-encompassing, and it isn't this pure, perfect love that will transform everything in its presence into love. So can we show you energetically how to step out of any of those depletion patterns or consciousness as either a way, it's a mechanism you're using to evolve, or it's a mechanism you're using to get love from others, or approval, or validation. Can we show you how to bring in the oneness-based mechanisms that allow you to connect to love directly through your beam of light, activate it in your field so it overflows to everything, and you get to have it. And as you get to have it, it gets to reflect in your world. And that's how you actually have love, in a pure way, in a non-codependent way, in a elevated, expanded, top-notch way, because we're not doing a substitute for love anymore. We're doing the real deal. Do you feel that? All right, take a deep breath. Even if you don't yet, just keep inviting it, because it's happening in the higher realms, and then what happens is it'll filter down to you. So just keep breathing. And it may take you sleeping tonight to fully integrate it, and that's perfect. the other piece the other story they want me to share, and I'll just maybe change it a bit so it's not infringing upon any confidentiality. But I had a session with a client also earlier this week, and it was a very similar idea of, well, this person needs to go visit this place and no one else will take them. And so I'm going to take them and I'm going to drive 8 hours each way, total of 16 hours to take them to this place, instead of knowing that it doesn't resonate with me to do that. Like, I know the last thing I want to do is drive 8 hours. And so long story short, it ended up being this whole messy, crazy thing where the woman who drove the 8 hours each way for this person wasn't honored by them, like completely disrespected. It was like this whole kind of blow up kind of situation. And it's like, well, so it's like a pressure cooker, they're saying. So when you're not loving and respecting yourself, that's going to reflect in your world as others not loving and respecting you. And so that was basically what that co-creation ended up being. On some level, she knew she wasn't being called. It wasn't following the light to say yes to driving this person 8 hours each way and paying for the gas and taking her car and doing all these things. It was an obligation energy, and it was a sacrifice energy, and it was like, well, I should do this because it's the right thing to do. And in that, she was totally separating from her beam of light and deciding, I'm going to do this because it's the right thing to do under what we've been taught is virtuous. And she could totally feel the discord when she did it. And she was also shown several red flags before she stepped into it that gave her opportunities to back out and to choose to honor herself instead. And I've done this too, so I get it. It's so challenging when we think, well, I want to be a good person. I want to be this light for somebody else, but not at the expense of you. And we really want to put an exclamation point on that. That does not serve anyone when you do that. Will you really receive that? Because not only are you functioning from a discordant frequency because you've separated from your true self, you've gotten out of integrity with you, you're actually calling forth a distorted experience for you and for them. Because you're coming from a separation-based construct, you're coming from sacrifice, a lower vibration. Do you feel that? And we can all probably look at examples in our life where we've done that, where we've said yes to something out of obligation because it's the right thing to do, or because we don't want to be judged, or because we want somebody to like us, or we want them to see us a certain way, or whatever it is. Will you finally allow yourself to stand in the truth that all that matters is how you see yourself and your integrity with you? It means so much, and it's actually everything. Will you receive that? Like, really receive that knowing and that alignment. And are you willing to let go of all the other stuff you're running that contradicts it? Allow it to upgrade, allow it to be embraced back into oneness. It's almost like I'm choosing to honor myself no matter what. And end of story. Because as you honor yourself, you honor all life. That's the absolute truth. So now we're going to bring in an example of that, a metaphor. When you are in nature, which I'm seeing someone, I see the trees, I love it. I see the trees and the nature, and that's perfect. That's what wants to come through right now. Nature, as we know, is an aspect of life in a very mostly undistorted way, right? There's some things going on there, but it gives us an example. The tree doesn't worry about the tree next to it. It just stands in its integrity of, I'm this tree, I'm going to be this tree in the best way I can. My branches are going to grow, my leaves are going to gather sunlight. I'm going to create the roots that bring the moisture up through me and the nutrients up through me. And it totally focuses on itself to be the best tree it can be. And everything around it gets to benefit from the fruit it might bear, from the shade, from, the squirrels make the home in it, whatever. Everybody benefits. The oxygen that's created, all of these things, right, are the side effect of the tree just being the tree. So can we show you how to stay in your lane in a very focused way, the same way the tree does? And also bring in the remembering of that way of being where you know that honoring you is honoring all life. It can be no other way because it's a frequency. And when you're vibrating at honoring you as a divine being, as an expression of life that is amazing and miraculous and over the top precious, you're vibrating at a very high frequency that invites every other aspect of life to join you. And take a deep breath. So that's the side effect. You're not responsible for their choices or how long it takes them to vibrate with you, or if they even get it. You're not responsible for that. Their higher self is. So will you return all the responsibility back to the level of the higher selves of everybody you've been trying to be responsible for, along with all appropriate energetic information, and that will be known at the level of the higher self. Your higher self knows if you have any information that would be helpful, and you can send them a bundle. You can send them a download. It's almost like syncing up. And take a deep breath. Because if you're here listening to this, you are a very evolved being. And you probably do have a lot of helpful information for other beings. That does not make you responsible for them. And so one of the things that we're doing as we prepare to welcome the series that really this is the launching point of, called Abiding in Sovereignty, is we are looking at completely rewiring our systems in 5 weeks to function from the sovereignty of our being. So that we're no longer forgetting and drifting back over into codependency, into sacrifice, into less than, into any discordant mechanisms that aren't in integrity with who you are. So it's really about aligning with who you are and moving through different processes and protocols to bring your energy back into alignment on all levels so that it matches your conscious choice of where you're wishing to function, which is really the way to accelerate everything. Because when we have this external validating what we're choosing on a conscious level, because our whole system has been wired to align with what we're choosing on a conscious level, this can start validating the honoring of us, the reflection of our sovereignty, the reflection of our truth. It's so much easier to stay there. So much easier to stay there. And so it's not only us on a conscious level, it's also the aspect of our physicality and our bodies and how it's wired. And so all of that's actually addressed as we move through different sessions in this series. And so we encourage you to use the link that we posted in the chat to visit and to learn more. If it's something that resonates for you, to take this a little bit further and to really give yourself the gift of the shortcut of consciousness, where you don't have to spend 5 years or 10 years on this. You can actually just wrap it up with a nice, neat little bow and elevate about 15 octaves in 5 weeks. And, I get it. And it's a free will choice. It's a free will zone. I used to kind of delay things, and now I'm like, nope, I'm having it. So if you're in that mode of I'm having it, you're free to join me. And I welcome you. We also want to mention, I'm being reminded, we have 2 scholarships available. So feel free to take advantage of that. They're partial scholarships because there is an energy exchange element, as you know. And it's not about, one of the things that took me a while to get, it's like, when we say yes to something, like really say yes to something, and the money helps us do that in a certain way, it actually increases our receptivity to what we're going to receive. So because this energy exchange that I always get shown as like this infinity symbol that wants to stay balanced, it will balance itself. So when we really contribute for something, we're actually saying that's how much I want to receive. So just keep that in mind as you do any of the work that you do in the energy exchange realm. If you go to something for a love offering, or if you, do certain, one-on-one sessions, things like that, just know that if you're a coach or if you're a healer, they're saying, know that when you charge a certain amount, you actually help increase the receptivity of the client. And I've seen it for myself. I know it's a thing. I used to poo-poo it. I used to doubt it. I was like, to my guides, I was like, are you sure you want me to charge that? Yep. They're like, yep. So I just totally release it to the divine now and just ask, what do you want me? What price is this? What? I stay out of it, because my conscious mind will still sometimes try to go into feeling sorry for, or, the not enoughness. And that isn't helpful. And I know that. So it's something I'm working on and cultivating as well. So I'm just pointing to that because I feel like that little seed would be helpful for some of you. If you're at a threshold that you've been on for a while where you just don't seem to be able to break through, you might look if that's the reason why, because that was the reason why for me. I was only allowing myself to go this high or this much in what I would contribute for any type of sessions or healing or retreats or whatever. And then this retreat came into my awareness that was $2,000. And I was like, there's no way I can do that. That was my first reaction. And then my guides slowly chipped at me and worked their way in and said, just feel into what it represents for you if you do it. And look at it this way and look at it this way, right? So I finally just said, okay, I'm having it. I'm going to say yes. I have no idea how it's going to work, but I'm doing it. And it was a life changer for me. I'm so grateful that I was able to break through that particular paradigm that I was functioning under, because it really opened up so many things on so many levels, including my health. So anyway, that's just a little nugget you can pick up if you want. That's a piece for you if it resonates. So everyone just take a deep breath. We're just looking at the energy to see what else maybe wants to shift here. So what would your life actually feel like? And you can do this through the tool of wonder. I wonder what my life would actually feel like if I felt honored, and if I was actually honoring myself. I wonder what life would feel like. I wonder what it would look like. So this allows us to begin calling that in as an experience. And just take some deep breaths. Inviting your future selves to show you what that is, and to help build that energetic bridge for you to begin to cross day by day into that actual physical manifestation of you experiencing a life that honors you, because you're honoring yourself. And many times we are waiting for circumstances to change for us to choose something. And the circumstances are actually waiting for you to choose. And take a deep breath. I'm seeing the little swirls of lights going around. So the angels and the opals are saying hello to everyone. Just celebrating you being willing to be present, to receive, to give this gift to yourself. And just feel that. It's like what it feels like to give this gift to yourself. To honor yourself in this way. And the other piece they're bringing in, because I use this tool for me, it's like, if there's something we want to choose in our lives that we know would honor us, that we haven't been allowing ourselves to choose because there isn't enough time, or there isn't enough money, or there isn't enough this, or there isn't enough that, give yourself permission to choose around what you think the limitation is energetically, and just say, I'm having this. I'm having this. And then begin to take, no matter how tiny of a step it is, toward that having, toward that experience. So maybe it's, if you know you're supposed to go to Hawaii, maybe you start, you decide energetically from a place of really commanding, like not trying to force or control, but I'm an infinite being with infinite choice, and all possibilities are available to me. And Hawaii's on that table of possibilities. It's one possibility out of infinite that I resonate with. So universe, divine, I'm having it. And see yourself reaching out and grabbing it off the table and having it. I'm having it. And then invite the vibration in your system to attune to that having. You can consciously say that. You know, body and energy field aligned to the having of this. If it's for the highest good, I would add that, because I always add that for me. If it's for the highest good. And then kind of let go, unattached. It's the how. I'm not going to figure out how. I'm not going to do. But then follow your guidance and your inspiration. So if you feel like watching a show on TV about Hawaii, watch the show. If you feel like researching on the internet about Hawaii, do that, right? If you feel like having a conversation with someone who just went, do that. But start stepping into what you're being guided around that, so that you can generate the forward movement in this physical realm that lets all of this know you're still choosing it. This is what I'm choosing, so that it can help manifest that thing for you. And so while we don't often talk about having a specific thing, in this case, it's pointing to following the light and what you know would honor you. It's not about having from an ego perspective where we think we need this car so that we'll be accepted in our neighborhood, or we think we need this specific purse so that we can look a certain way when we go to the restaurant. It's not about that. All that stuff's fine. There's no judgment around that. But this is really about what will support the evolution of your soul, and what will support you in being more light and having more light and embodying more light. Because that's the energies right now that want to support you. If that's the direction you're going and the reasons you're having, and you can tell the difference, right? You can tell if you're wanting it and choosing it from an ego perspective, or from the knowing that it represents an expansion and an elevation for you. That's one of the reasons, that's one of the reasons we offer the partial scholarships, is just to help support that, because I've been there and I get it. But just reach out to us, let us know. That's a step, right? That's a step. So if you go to embracingtheinfinite.com, you can learn more about the series and the other offerings. We're actually doing an activation on the solstice on June 20th. And that you'll find under the Embody Divine Light virtual event. And it's a 75-minute transmission that we're going to do to help just, it's like drink all the juice out of what those energies are there to support us in. So if that resonates with you, you can also learn more about that on the website. And thank you all so much for your willingness to be here and to have more of you and to just shine your light, because it is a gift and it should be honored first and foremost by you. But we'd like for you to recognize in this moment that we're surrounding you in the recognition and the honoring of you and your light. So just close your eyes and give yourself permission to receive that, to really receive that that's happening in a very tangible way. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for your service by choosing to incarnate at this time. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your willingness to evolve in a conscious way. Just receive that gratitude and that love and that acknowledgement. And as much as you can, invite yourself to give it to you too. Notice how far you've come. Celebrate that you can pretty much make it through anything, and you've already proven that. You have a lifetime of proof that you are a master at getting through to the other side of any challenge, of any discombobulation. You're going to brush yourself off, when you're going to stand back up and you're going to say, okay, now what? Let's go. I love being present with the renegades of consciousness that you are. It is my honor and my joy to facilitate the evolution of consciousness with you. Thank you so much for all that you bring and all that you share. And you're invited to acknowledge that for yourselves. Much love and many blessings.